Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbalo in Abuja. Let's get started with not so good news. The Independent National Electoral Commission has suffered some losses. The commission had 2 attacks and they were staged on 2 local government offices, one in Ogun State and the other in Ogun State. INEC office in Abeokuta South local government area was attacked and set ablaze. The incident was said to have occurred around 1 a.m. when some unidentified persons overpowered the security personnel on duty and set the entire building ablaze. The main building and all the commission's movable assets in the office were destroyed. They include 904 ballot boxes, 29 voting cubicles, 30 megaphones, 57 election bags, 8 electric power generators, and 65,699 uncollected permanent voter cards, PVCs. Similarly, the INEC office in Ede South local government area was also attacked and set ablaze. The incident occurred in the early hours of this morning when some unidentified persons also were said to have attacked the building and set a portion of it ablaze. Well, for this Ogun State office, fortunately, the damage to the Ede South local government office was limited to a section of the building and only some furniture items were destroyed. INEC is going to be convening an emergency meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, ISES, tomorrow, Friday, the 11th November 2023, to discuss the disturbing trend of events. Tonight, we'll be having a one-on-one conversation with the Executive Governor of Anambra State, Professor Charles Soludo. Afterwards, we'll be getting reactions from the People's Democratic Party. We heard yesterday from the spokesperson of the APC on the Bola Tinubu issues in the U.S., the antecedents, some of the cases he had in that country. And we'll be getting some reactions. Several other reactions and comments have been trailing. But first and foremost, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, is calling on youths of the party to mobilize grassroots support for the party ahead of the elections. He was speaking at the inauguration of the PDP Youth Campaign Council in Abuja. Mr. Atiku notes that as youths who are the bedrock and future of the country, they must elect someone who has the capacity to provide an enabling environment for them to realize their dreams.
I want to assure you, no matter your poor background, no matter your position, PDP will help you realize your individual and collective aspirations in this country.
Against the backdrop of recent attacks and rallies of political parties by armed hoodlums, the most recent of which was the convoy of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, in Borno State, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Usman Al-Kalibaba, has disclosed that a team has been set up to thoroughly investigate the matter.
And I think we have a total team that will assess what had actually happened and the extent of what had happened, and also put measures to prevent such occurrence in future outings of the parties.
Ahead of the 2023 general election, the Independent National Electoral Commission has called on political parties to shun politics of bitterness and engage in peaceful campaigns during and after the elections. Speaking during a stakeholders forum in Ilorin, Kwara State, the State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Mr. Tahiru Madama, described the signing of the Electoral law as the best that has happened to the country, as it will put an end to rigging and other electoral malpractices.
The best thing that happened to this country in our electoral process is the signing into law by President Muhammadu Buhari. It has changed a lot of things and to allow us to use technology.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, Zamfara State, says that it has mapped out communities affected by bandits in the state and is promising to make provisions that will enable displaced persons to vote in the 2023 general election. The State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Professor Saidu Ahmad, disclosed this while briefing journalists in Gusau, the Zamfara State capital, as the Commission prepares to display voters register in the state from Saturday, the 12th of November 2022.
We have record in 13 of the 14 local governments in Zamfara State. There are actually varying numbers of displaced persons, IDPs, in those local governments. We have the records, we have the roads, and so on. Here we have them.
The Ogun State Governor, Mr. May Malabuni, says his administration will complete all ongoing projects in the state with the 2023 budget in pursuance of government's post-insurgency recovery and speedy socio-economic development program. Governor Buni made the disclosure while presenting the 2023 appropriation bill of 163 billion naira before the State House of Assembly. The amount signifies 0.49% decrease compared to the 2022 budget.
The total budget for the execution of our policies and programs is put at 163,155,366,000 naira, signifying 0.049% decrease compared to the 2022 budget.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get straight to business. Today, the governor of Anambra State, Professor Chukwuma Soludo of Anambra State, presented a 258.97 billion 2023 budget to the State House of Assembly. The governor made a presentation of the budget, which he titled Budget of Acceleration. He said it recorded a raise from the 170 billion revised 2022 budget presented by the governor in May. Now the presentation is said to have embodied his administration's single-minded focus and determination to continue to press the accelerator pedals in spite of the risky bumps on the way. He says, quote, "Ours is an agenda with a deadline and there will be no excuses." That's according to Governor Chukwuma Soludo. And Professor Charles Soludo joins us live from Awka, the Anambra State capital. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight. And I must condone your state and the people of Anambra State on that tragic incident in Onitsha at a chemical market. But I guess it's fair for us to ask what is the latest? As of the last time, 4 people dead, 12 injured, and over 850 million worth of properties were destroyed. What did we learn from that, and what are the latest or the updates from that incident?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Shell. And are you hearing me?
I can hear you, please, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. That's really a very unfortunate incident that happened 2 days ago at the open drug market at Onitsha. And as you well know, that's about the largest open drug market in the world. And an explosion, I think maybe one of the shop owners there had imported some explosives and so on, and then the process of offloading that, it exploded and bringing down buildings, and then inferno that followed. Lives have been lost, and properties still to get a full assessment of the full extent of the damage. We've cordoned off much of the place, put out the fire, and trying now to have a full assessment, and also to design the road ahead. But that particular incident is one too many, one of the major shocks we have had in the year, and convinces us about the decision we had taken sometime in June this year to actually launch the construction of an alternative market that meets the international standards for where you can keep drugs and so on. I think that particular open drug market is long overdue for closure, and I'm glad that NAFDAC and the Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria and everybody, all the medical operators, agree that that place, that location, is not proper, fit and proper for drugs for human consumption, so to speak. And this particular incident just reconvinces us that we are moving in the right direction, and movement to Oba as the alternative place where you have a consolidated drug center that is being constructed is the way to go. But in the meantime, our hearts are with the victims and especially, and all victims, the innocent ones who never knew anything about it. But we're still to get the full extent of the damage, and the government will be responding, trying to see how far we can go in condoling the victims and assisting some of those who have lost, well, totally their sources of livelihood, whether we could have some palliative measures. But on a more fundamental level, we are determined to relocate that market from that location.
Right. Let's get into the matter of the budget which you presented today. 258 billion, that's the budget you presented. Your predecessor, Governor Obiano, left with a budget of 141 billion, which you raised to 170 billion. 258 billion compared to 141 billion. That is perhaps almost 100% jump from the initial budget mark, the total budget cap that you had the last time. What is responsible for this?
Well, I must say that an approximate size of about 260 billion naira budget for Anambra, for the size of the economy of Anambra, an economy of about 5.5 trillion, meaning that we have a budget size of less than 5% of our income or GDP of the state, 4-point-something%. And compared to the needs of Anambra, compared to the fact that we've got the total infrastructure decay, what I call the road and traffic crisis, our transport system is one a major crisis, and most people in Anambra agree. Even when I was campaigning, we did acknowledge that we had a road crisis, and that if elected, I was going to declare a state of emergency on roads and so on. Given the 5 fingers of our agenda of the Soludo Solution Manifesto, our contract with the Anambra people, and the need to deliver on those, to be honest with you, 500 billion, 1 trillion might still be even, if we were to have 500 billion or 1 trillion to tackle those, that will begin to even scratch it. As I mentioned in my budget speech, still though small, relative to need, relative to our size, but we are determined, we are moving in measured steps to give our people value while keeping our eyes on fiscal sustainability. We don't want our public finances to get to a point of fiscal insolvency. So we're taking very calculated steps. But again, there is also another point to make, and which is when you are looking at the size in nominal terms, it doesn't quite fully convey the full import of the moment that we live. It's been disruptive moments. Prices have been escalating. If you look at what it costs, a ton of bitumen or a ton of asphalt a few months ago or even a year ago, and now it's hundreds of % increase. If you take in terms of what it costs, for example, to provide even the most basic services, how much was it costing to have a liter of diesel a year ago or even some 8 months ago versus what it costs today? So if you were to take that in nominal terms, to be honest with you, that's quite not a very significant increase, as a matter of fact. And we're being drawn by the fiscal constraints of our capacity to raise internally generated revenue, which we devoted quite a significant portion of the budget addressing. And we're desirous to get that addressed in the coming years. To be able, our target is to raise our IGR to the level of 3 to 5%, which might begin to get us, something, a little bit moderate, but in the long term, up to 10 or more % of our GDP. But the focus of the budget, as we call it, budget of acceleration, designed to continue to press the accelerator despite all the risky bombs. We've done quite a lot this year. Insecurity, and we're trying to take back our state. You look at the flooding with its massive devastation. Anambra is the gully erosion capital of Africa, if not the world. And we're having landslides and villages being, under the erosion stuff. And we're battling at all levels, environmental degradation that need to be rebuilt, infrastructure, and our schools, hospitals. Like we said, in the next few days, we'll be handing out more than 5,000 employment letters to teachers to end an era of schools without teachers, and 240-something doctors, consultants, and so on to man our general hospitals, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the 5 fingers of our program, we've designed this budget to keep our eyes on the ball. The security law and order, number 1, transforming our economy from largely informal to an industrial leisure tech hub. The third is our social agenda that helps to build the human capital, which has our greatest resource, that is productive at home and exportable abroad. Then you get onto the issue of our governance, transparency, prudence, accountable governance, and finally the environment, which is Anambra's existential threat.
All right. So
if you look at our budget carefully, yes.
Yeah, I was going to jump in quickly
along these lines and to address these pressing priorities of our people, including, never forget, empowerment for our youths, women, and the vulnerable groups, which demographics must never.
If I'm right, there's about 13 billion deficit in that budget you presented already from the books and the report that we gleaned on. It's about 100 billion naira debt that the last administration left for your government, and you were seeking. You said it would take you need about 250 billion naira as loan for infrastructure. You approached the assembly for 100 billion naira loan. If you put all of those together in this infrastructure and the current situation of the economy, the question is the state going much into debt now? 100 billion left by the last administration. You're getting 100 billion more. You said you perhaps will be needing 150 billion more. How will the state be able to sustain paying back all of these debts?
Let me help you. That is an area that I understand a few things about. And as I said a moment ago, the reason you find that size for the moment is that we're keeping our eye on fiscal sustainability. We've run our numbers, our debt service. Yes, I inherited not 100 billion, I inherited over 100 billion in debt, and we're getting onto that 100 billion, not even counting the huge contractor debt and pension arrears and so on and so forth, which we have also begun to address. We began to pay our pensioners their gratuities, which weren't paid in 4 years. We began to pay some of the contractors. We're gradually paying all of this. But if you look at the aggregate debt service obligations of the state, we're one of the lowest, evidently, in the country. And I will tell you today, given the efforts we're making with regards to our IGR, our debt service obligations will be way less than 50%. In fact, way less than 50% of our IGR. Not to talk about other receipts that we expect. So we are tightly walking that road. I am one of those who advocate for fiscal responsibility and for us to manage within our bounds. And we have been extremely, very, very prudent in the way we manage resources here. And that's why we've been able to flag off.
I was going to ask
that's why
you
we've been able to flag off.
Former Governor Peter Obi has talked so much about how much of prudence that he introduced into the governors in Anambra State, and perhaps that could be a very good standard, because globally there is a caution on the cost of governance, and perhaps what experts have said that governance in Nigeria, leaders need to look into cutting cost of governance. Would the Peter Obi template be working for you? Are you doing more than that? Are you looking in that direction?
I don't know about Peter Obi's template. I'm pursuing Soludo's template, which is Soludo's template that it takes about, producing results by being accountable and prudent. It's not, we don't save money for the sake of saving money. Saving money is not an output. It's not an outcome by itself. We put money to produce value for our people. If you don't have something to spend money on, then save it. But if you have something, you can't have your people in the hospital dying and you say you are saving money and so on, and poverty is escalating and so on and so forth. Now, our own fiscal prudence is to be able to cut down waste. We've cut down the cost of governance. We've cut down all manner of, we say boycott all boycottables and cut all cuttables. And I give you an illustration. When I assumed office, it was costing about 137 million a month on what you might call those cleaning offices and so on and so forth, various contractors providing services to clean offices, government offices. 137 million a month. We've cut down and negotiated until we've drilled it down. It now costs 11 million naira a month. That's a savings of about 126 million every month. That's the kind of thing that we're doing. Purchase of expensive, outlandish equipments and so on. I'm here at the governor's lodge. We haven't changed one piece of furniture. We haven't bought anything new. It's just what we inherited. Office of first lady, this, and we don't have that. We haven't bought even a bicycle for for use by my wife or something like that. We've kept it nimble. We've kept it focused, fit for purpose kind of government. We're energizing and enabling technology to work.
So let me quickly jump in again. Apologies, Mr. Governor. There was some investment, and perhaps because this is an area in which you are very known for, investment. What's your own perspective in a government investing outside of public sector? Because, and I'm making another reference to former Governor Peter Obi of Anambra State, who has talked about how much of investment is made with the resources of the Anambra State government to bring back profit and benefit of to the Anambra people. By the way, what has become of that investment, and are you looking in that direction also?
I don't know why you're turning the interview about P2B.
No, I'm just making reference because these are I made reference to former Governor Obi and not to.
Our interview is about my 2023 budget. I'm not talking about the investments of either any of my predecessors. By the way, the one that you talk about, I don't know about that. I think there was something I read about somebody speculated about the value of whatever investment. What I've seen today, the value of those investments is worth next to nothing. So let's leave that aside. Let's focus on the kind of thing that first of all, you got to rebuild the public infrastructure. That is building for the future. We're investing in our schools. We're investing in our hospitals. We're investing in those. We're creating Anambra as Africa's leisure entertainment hub. That's what we are, modernizing our cities, and backing on our urban regeneration, giving our people life so that they can have quality air to breathe, controlling pollution, dealing with flooding, dealing with erosion that is ravaging everywhere, and so on and so forth. We're not going to leave those I'm going to say I'm saving money to go and invest in one private company. And by the way, when you talk about investment, that's an area that I think I know one or two things, and I have been able to do that. We're now transforming Anambra State Investment Promotion and Protection Agency, which is an institution which my predecessor established. That's part of institutionalizing government, and not I and so on. It's the institution of ANSEPA that is the vehicle for Anambra investing in partnership with the private sector. Now I'm taking ANSEPA to the next level. We're now trying to reform ANSEPA to have a financing arm and to become the Anambra Development Corporation. I know what it is, and we'll be working with international development financial institutions, including the AFC, the Afrexim, and the others. And we're going to bring in bankable, we're going to be able to fund bankable projects, private-public partnership projects, whether it's in infrastructure, whether it is in pure private goods, and so on and so forth. We'll be able to leverage these institutions and assets that we have, our balance sheet, and the knowledge and our network that we have around the world, to be able to leverage some hundreds of millions of dollars in investments, not directly into public infrastructure and so on and so forth. So when you talk about investment, investment is not about going to invest in bakery. That's not what the government is about. Because if the bakery goes down, then your investment goes down with it. You've got to invest in the future.
All right, now, Governor, I have just two quick questions. And one is in the area of security. I bet you that you perhaps did not imagine the magnitude of the challenges you perhaps met in office that you saw, and the manner in which things are flowing. What are your own view or your own ideas of resolving permanently, of course, some of the security challenges that you met on the ground? And because you are not isolated, you will be talking about a regional solution also into some of it. You and your colleague governors in the Southeast perhaps are looking in that direction. But give us an idea. What do you think can best fix the issue of insecurity that will make the people of Anambra sleep with their two eyes closed?
Well, I think first sentence is that relative to where it was when I came, and relative to where we are, I can bet you that most people in Anambra are sleeping with their two eyes closed. There was heightened insecurity. It used to be a daily thing, killing here and there. Before I came in, there's not anything that I saw that I say I didn't expect. The only thing is that you never know the full details until you are on this seat and you get security reports every day, as the case may be. I come from Anambra South. One of my local government is in the South. And you know that I was personally attacked in the broad daylight when I was, meeting with youths. They came to kill me, basically. And none of us, no candidate could campaign in the entire Anambra South then. Even one of the candidates of Labour Party then, Basimalo, is still missing. And so nobody could campaign in the 7 local governments, plus Obaru, in those. That's the state of things. And these criminals were in about 15 camps. And I can tell you today, that it's not safe for them anywhere. They've been smoked out in almost all of those places today.
All right, Mr. Governor, so because we need to wrap up the conversation, but if you help me, just in 30 seconds, it might be unfair to a part of me that wants to learn some economics to listen to your view on this. I'm very sure as a governor, you'll be preparing what your friend, the CBN governor, has announced, the policy of redesigning the Naira, and he's told everybody that we should be prepared, that in the next couple of weeks, that we will have new Naira notes. How much of the preparation are you having in Anambra? So give us your view on the redesigning of the Naira, a good timing or bad timing. In 30 seconds, Mr. Governor, if you may.
Thank you very much. Again, you know, the last time you tried something and I told you, you're not going to push me. I'm not going to be, as a former governor of Central Bank, I resist and I will resist you commenting on the policies of my successor in office, in whatever form, in whatever way you put it. Anambra will respond as appropriate. Whatever circumstances that rolled out from the center, the monetary authorities, the fiscal authorities at the center, whatever thing they decide and throw up, and that is a national policy, be sure that Anambra will appropriately adjust and respond. And so we have no problem with that. And by the way, in my own time, I got the Naira redesigned. Just to make this point, I redesigned the 5, the 10, the 20, and 50 Naira denominations, and we got them in polymer, or at least 5, 10, and 20 in polymer, and then got some of the others, 10 and so 50 redesigned. So it's not anything new, and I also introduced the 1,000 Naira note. So it's certainly within the purviews of the central bank to do that, to redesign notes from time to time. Might be for its security features, it might be some other considerations, as the case may be. But I'm not here to speculate about to comment on the substance of the policy itself.
All right. Governor, Professor, I mean, sometimes it's difficult to now put my hands on which one to call you. A former CBN governor, professor, sitting governor, but whichever one. My very good friend, Professor Charles Soludo, thank you so much, Governor, for talking to us.
Just Mr. Governor is enough.
But I won't take your academic title away from you. You deserve it. Professor Soludo, thank you so much indeed.
That's it. Mr. Governor is enough.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
You know, Shehu,
yeah.
Shehu, you know, I don't go with this. Shehu,
yeah.
You know, when you were starting, I said, I don't go with this His Excellency thing. I don't go with the executive governor thing. I'm just Mr. Governor, period. And that's all. That's all I am. And then if you like, as our people here, the locals will call me Charlie Mwambafo. Charlie, the son of Mwambafo.
Oh, Charlie, the son of Mwambafo. I mean, you've not told me that. I mean, you're just telling me the meaning for the first time today. Thank you so much, Charlie Mwambafo, if I got it right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mwambafo.
Oh,
no, that's one I'll give you a tutorial on that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll take a break, everyone, and when we return, more on the Tinubu U.S. matter. We get reactions from the People's Democratic Party. They say they are interested in the matter, and there are some angles to the matter in which they want to throw light on. We'll be hearing from one of the official spokespersons of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, Daniel Bwala, joins me next. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. For those of you who took notes yesterday on the program, perhaps we'll continue from where we stopped. It's about the Bola Ahmed Tinubu issues and what the APC has been saying. It's been years of scrutiny. It's about 30 years or so since this incident happened. And critical appraiser of the antecedent of the former governor of Lagos State and the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, and that is continued. There have been series of questions on drug-related matter and money laundering incidents that happened in the United States. A court paper which resurfaced again from the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois surfaced, where there are claims that Bola Tinubu's encounter with American authorities over allegations of narcotics, trafficking, and money laundering. Well, yesterday we had Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, an official spokesperson of the Tinubu campaign. He was on the program where he dismissed the commentaries and some of the issues raised by Nigerians on the matter. But tonight, the People's Democratic Party, one of the major opposition party in Nigeria, says they are interested. And a lawyer and official spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Daniel Douala. He joins me here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Why is your party interested in this matter?
Well, because yesterday the spokesman for APC reeled out falsehood. He misled Nigerians in the area of interpreting the law. He misled Nigerians in the area of marshalling out the facts. He was economical with respect to certain documents. So let me put it this way. The documents that are flying, but let me even say this before the document. When you show interest to run for office...
The first question that I asked is why your party is interested.
Yes, we're interested because as a political party, we are all gunning for the post of the presidency. Everybody, Atiku has thrown himself to the field. Same with Asiwaju. And facts came to the public fora, and they misled Nigerians. It behoves of our party to come to the media space, join issues, and distill facts, and reel out the truth as they are, which is why we're here today. And that's why I say, first of all, their first quarrel is that this thing happened 30 years ago. It doesn't matter if it is 100 years. If you are vying for a public office, you must be willing to be scrutinized. The reason is because the man who will become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that's why they have what they call security vetting, must be somebody that the nation have an idea of his life from when it started to where he is today. So he does not become an object of blackmail or a national security threat. So the fact that it came after 30 years is a non-issue.
So let's take it from one after the other, because there are a lot of issues from the matter of forfeiture and whether or not there was a kind of plea bargain, because these are some of the issues that the Leonel Sake dismissed yesterday. Perhaps you have alternative facts to some of this matter in law, because he said there was no, it was a forfeiture, but I mean, there was no indictment. What indictment means, you probably will be able also to shed light. There a plethora of issues that he raised, which I'd like you to respond to. But first and foremost, let's dwell on the premise of what happened. It's called statute of limitation, isn't it? I mean, so when something has happened over the past years, and now is happening in other jurisdiction, does it affect that person in Nigeria, on the Nigerian soil?
No, the question of statute of limitation does not actually arise, because one, if it was a crime, it was committed under the laws of the United States, and the laws of Nigeria is different from the laws of the U.S.
Was it a crime?
No, as if it is a crime.
I'm asking if it was a crime.
If it was a crime. You're asking if it was a crime?
The incident, that scenario that happened.
You know, money laundering, dealing with narcotics are criminal offenses set out by separate laws in the United States. The U.S. government introduced what they call non-conviction-based recovery. Because the way they operate is, if they are going to prosecute you on a crime that investigation suggests, they are going to spend a lot of money. And whatever is the proceed of crime that they are targeting, they may not be able to get a hold of it until the conclusion of the trial. But because under non-conviction-based recovery, the idea is to recover as fast as possible the proceeds of crime, they now apply what we call the forfeiture proceedings. Forfeiture is a civil proceeding. Yes, it is, not a criminal proceedings. But the elements that are argued before the civil court under forfeiture proceedings are elements of crime. It is like election petition tribunal. It's a sui generis. It is just the proceedings that is civil, but the ingredient upon which the prosecutor will convince the judge that this asset and this asset and this asset are proceeds of crime under the laws of UNEC are criminal criminal elements.
So let me ask, from that scenario, was Bola Tinubu indicted?
Yes, indictment is an allegation. There's a difference between conviction. Yes, he was indicted. But was he convicted criminally? The answer is no.
Because he didn't go to trial.
Pardon?
He did not go to trial.
Yes, so under non-conviction-based recovery, there are three types of plea, right? There is a plea of guilt, there is a not guilty, and there is no contest. If Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the time that indictment was brought before the judge, decided to contest it, it will go into full trial, and if the elements are proven, it may lead to his prosecution. What most defendants do in the U.S. is that They don't want a situation where they will be further exposed. So they can afford to let go of the asset. That's why they enter what we call non-contest, what they call nolle contendere in under Latin, that you're not contesting. You are not saying, I am not guilty, I'm also not contending. So whatever you see, you can just carry it. But here lies the issue, and Nigerians must know. It is the moral burden that the nation is confronted by. Somebody who has not denied, has in fact cooperated with the government of Ulines, right, about a proceed of crime traceable to his account. Because if you look at the document, and I think, Sean, if you give me 1 minute, you understand that.
Go ahead.
3 separate documents. There is one that is the affidavit. The affidavit set out the facts and what the prosecutor was seeking to achieve. Number 2, there is a verdict. The verdict is the finding of the court. So the affidavit established a probable cause, and the verdict says that the probable cause has been established under the relevant laws, that those assets that they were seizing were actually proceeds of crime. What they do under non-conviction-based recovery is that once that ex parte application is moved, the judge must say that the defendant be put on notice. Who are the defendants? If you look at that proof of service, which is another document, you will see United States of America as plaintiff and Bola Tinubu as a defendant.
It's actually the first document on this set of documents. If my producer can go back to it, and is on the left corner of the screen.
Right.
If you can go back to that so that the viewers can see.
Very important. So when you see that proof of service presupposes, you will see in clear terms the United States government and the defendant.
So Bola Tinubu was a defendant in that matter?
The account, yes, he is a defendant because he's linked. You see, the owner of the account and the account are like two siamese twins. They are umbilically bound. That's why even if you look at that, when the accounts were established as defendant, they say belonging to Bola Tinubu. And when the court said that the defendant be asked to come and show reason why it should not be finally forbidden, who are the people, the defendant the court is talking about? Digits, account number comes to court. No, the owners of the account should come to court. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not contest. He, in fact, cooperated to release it. This is where he cannot separate himself from the account.
So now, there is an argument which the learned sick, Mr. Keyamo, argued yesterday on the program. He said forfeiture doesn't mean penalty. And it doesn't mean a fine, because I made reference to a portion of the Nigerian Constitution which made reference to the status of anyone who wants to seek the exalted office of the president, and whether or not such persons are being involved in any kind of indictment or convictions in the past, fine or penalty or whatsoever. But he said that forfeiture in that nature wasn't a penalty. Actually, but in law, was that a forfeiture? One.
Yes, forfeiture.
In law, that forfeiture, is it a penalty?
Yes, it is. You are forfeiting what rightfully you would have argued as your own. Why are you forfeiting it? Because investigation proved a link between you and that item, and that the item relates to narcotics. So narcotics and money laundering is a criminal offense. In fact, when he was fighting you yesterday, he was very unprofessional, quite frankly, because in our discipline of law, you don't look at your colleague, whether he's a student or a lawyer, and say, take pen and paper, and I'm teaching you. Very insulting.
You know the thing is, in this our own business, we have been trained never to be emotional, never to draw anything to yourself, because it is not about the journalist. It is about the matter in which we was discussed. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a non-issue for me.
But
the fact remains that we need to stay on the issue.
I agree.
The Nigerian people need to understand this matter, and we cannot erode them or to bamboozle them out of the issue. We need to stay on it.
Let me tell you.
So what matters to Nigerians, and the reason why I'm sitting on this chair today is because of the Nigerian. I'm being empowered by the Nigerian Constitution.
I agree.
And so the fact remains that those matters that Mr. Keyamo raised yesterday, whether or not you agree with those matters, and whether or not in his own argument they were right in your own eyes.
No, everything he said yesterday were wrong. You see, I taught in the law school. I'm sorry that I have to say that. So we have several courses we teach in law school. Professional ethics is one of them. It is not enough for you to know the law. How you dispense the law, how you argue the law, is as important as the knowledge of the law itself. And once you're losing an argument, we experience that sometimes in court. Once someone is losing argument in court, the next thing you do is you now descend into legal gutter to begin to challenge. There's no basis for you to say, apart from 2 prosecutors in Nigeria, there's no prosecutor that comes. One, unprofessional because it's champatious. Number 2 is it's patently false because you will count 30 prosecutors in Nigeria, you will not get to him. Number 3, consistently he used the term, I used my trained mind, trained prosecutor. Who trained him? He worked under Gani Fawehinmi. Gani Fawehinmi was throughout his life not known as a prosecutor. He was a human rights defense attorney. And when he said, I'm using my prosecutory or my intelligent or my prosecution mind, there are certain things a prosecutor looks at whenever he's confronted with a case. Number 1, the fact pattern. And number 2, inference. A man who was brought to the court, his account was brought to the court. At the time, the prosecutor's mind I'm talking about now, where was he working? How much was he earning? How much was the amount that the prosecutor sought to seize?
There's the question mark on the source of the money.
So that's what a prosecutor thinks. I'm suggesting to his prosecutory mind. If the prosecutory mind is functional, these are the thoughts. How much was Bola earning? How much he was earning, even if you multiplied it by a number of years, the prosecutor will say, is it enough to have that large sum of money around that time?
So you're raising this matter on the answer that needs to be gotten from the APC and the presidential candidate on where the source of that money, isn't it?
For the Nigerian people, the question is not just about the source is important, but for the Nigerian people there is still a cloud around drug-related offenses and drug-related activity with somebody who wants to be the #1 citizen of the country. And I will tell you why. Because if you look at opium in Nigeria, very recently you saw the massive busting of cocaine in Nigeria. This idea of drugs and narcotics is a terrible case all over the world. And if someone has that questionable character is elected as a president, what it means is that it will embolden people who are into those activities. That is why the person has to come out clean. That is point number 1. Point number 2, and very important, apart from the drug, if you look at part 799 and part 680, 680 is a Court of Appeal case, 799 is a Supreme Court case, where the spokesman, apart from the narcotic case, many years ago went to court and also challenged the certificates of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In part 680, actually volume 12, Nigerian Weekly Law Report, part 680, if you look at page 200 and paragraph 10, these are the words of Festus Keyamo. He said, in a final analysis, however, then he now alluded to all the certificates that he laid out in that affidavit. He said, Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented a dubious certificate.
All right, so
he has not refrained from that, even though the judgment of that court dismissed that application because he did not attach affidavit under a summons. But one fact is clear, he has not come out today to say those things that I said in that case, I no longer believe them.
Let me quote part of what Mr. Keyamo said.
Right.
I'd like to get your response. He said, the document on the left, and I'd like my producers to, I told you to get this on standby so that, people can be able to, understand, as we did yesterday, to follow the conversation. And that's perhaps the very first page of the first set of the document. He says, document on the left is the originating process, which indicates Tinubu was not a party to the case in rem. The right is a summons to the owner of the accounts to appear to defend the accounts, but does not make him a party. It is like a director appearing to defend a company. That is what Mr. Keyamo said.
It is, and he said that, and he believes that.
This is not the right document. Please, can you put the document, the initial, the very first set of document? That's it.
He's saying that it is like, he's comparing it is like a director defending a company. Is the director not an alter ego of the company? Why do you think few days ago there was a judgment that Abdul Rashid Bawa should be committed to prison? Did he, as a person, alleged in that something violated the law, but because he was the chairman, the alter ego. Who is the owner of the account? How do you separate the owner and the account? Do you know the doctrine of confidentiality that exists between a banker and a customer relating to the account? Without an order of court, the bank does not have any right to disclose the details of a financial transaction. That is how inseparable your account is with you. And so when the account was joined as a defendant, by the time the ex parte order was granted, the court said, let the defendant come and establish why it should not be given the final forfeiture. Who are the defendants? The owners of the account.
Let me now ask you again. There is a letter originated from the office, written, directed to the then Inspector General of Police. If you bring back that letter, the very blurry one, which was written by an attaché of the United States Embassy, which they were trying to find out about Bola Tinubu. And this is what Tafa Balogun was. He was written to his office. He was the then Inspector General of Police. This, in some way, the argument is that Bola Tinubu was exonerated by this document.
No, he was not. Is that what you're supposed to say?
That is the argument. That they don't have any record of Bola Tinubu.
That's because under civil forfeiture proceedings, as you can see in that order, because in part of the document you will see the order of the court. After the order was given and the money was to be taken, underneath you will see case closed. In other words, it is like you have convicted. I'm just using the term like in criminal case. When you have finished convicting somebody and you sentence him, do you retry him again? That means that case, as far as that case is concerned, it is conclusively concluded, not in favor of Bola because he had to forfeit that. That's number one. Number two, I heard him yesterday saying it is the party who are just willing to know because they don't want to field him for the second time and they want to be, don't deceive Nigerians. His former boss, what is his name? The human rights activist, Gani was the one that started this case. He applied to the court for mandamus. He even asked to be given the right to prosecute the matter. It was Gani that sparked off this issue, and it was a legal matter. That is why the party was compelled. Even it was around that time that Festus Keyamo also went to court and said, in addition to it, that the man's certificate too is a problem.
We need to wrap up now. On the final note, what is your summation on this matter?
I am afraid that the conclusion of this case is that from the eyes of the law, especially if you look at the constitutional provision you cited, Bola may be disqualified from contesting.
By who?
No, if the matter goes to court, interpreting that provision of the Constitution, because the finding in that civil forfeiture proceedings has ended against him. That's why he forfeited that. And narcotics and money laundering, whether in America or in Nigeria, is a criminal offense.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Buwala. I guess the conversation continues with Nigerians. You are the one who decide anyways. The millions of you who have taken your permanent voter cards, you will decide who becomes your next president. Thank you so much indeed, everyone, for tonight's program. I appreciate it. Until I see you again tomorrow at 7 p.m., I'm Sean Akimale. Bye-bye, and God bless Nigeria.